Greetings everyone, Fortunate you're here of Top Tier Tips, and I welcome you to your prime spot for tips and tricks to help you level up in Dead or Alive 6. Alright, in our last session we took a look at Dead or Alive 6's sidestep system and the sidestep attack. Alright, in this session we're going to be taking a look at a very important tool for your training journey with Dead or Alive 6. If you haven't guessed it, it's the best box in the whole wide world, the Move Details box. Alright, let's slap this bad boy on. Alright, I want you to go to the fight screen info, and right here you'll see display skill info. This is your Move Details box. Alright, there's only an option to put it on in just free trading, so we'll put it on that. And this right here is if you want to display either the left side character, which is Ayane, or the right side character, which is Kasumi. For this session, we're just going to be focused on just the left side character, which is Ayane. And this one's just this shows whether you want your helpful messages on the or not. For DOA, I do recommend keeping them on because they do give you some useful info like counter hit statuses and stuff like that. Alright, right here we have the Move Details on. Alright, if you press in the right stick, so R3, you'll see that there's 3 pages. We're just going to be looking at the first page right now. Alright, the first number you see that right there is to your top left is called frame. This tells you how fast moves comes out. So the left side is the impact frames, the middle one is the active frames, and the third one is recovery frames. For instance, if I were to throw out a jab with Ayane, it requires 10 frames of activation, 2 active frames, and 14 frames of recovery. So what that means is 10 frames to come out, 2 frames where the move can actually hit the opponent, and 14 frames of recovery. I'll let you know right now that 14 frames of recovery is really quick. The opponent it's to be really hard for an opponent to punish you for that. But let's say if I were to throw out something that was like 55 frames of recovery. So if you end up just chucking this move out, then if the opponent's spaced properly, they can whip punish you probably pretty easily for that, because now you have 55 frames of recovery. However, one thing that the opponent has to be careful of is that you have 5 active frames, which is a lot. I mean, that's basically like a wall of 7K, if that makes any sense. And it's an 18 frame move, so it's also a little slow also. Even though in this case it's a bit weird because 7K also has a lot of evasive frames, like jump frames and whatnot. But let's say this move were to be blocked. Now I want you to look at the right side, it says advantage. If this move is at minus 30. So what that means is that the opponent gets 30 frames before they can act before you. To put that in perspective, if you're at minus 30, Ayane's jab becomes like 40 frames. So what that means is that the opponent could use any move that's 28 frames or faster to punish you. Alright, I know that number sounds weird, but I'll let you know just how frames work in DOA. The frame data works in a fashion where you need to add 2 frames for strike punishment and 1 frame for throw punishment. In this case, that means if you're minus 30, you can strike punish with a move that's 28 frames or faster, or you can throw punish with a throw that's 29 frames or faster. In this case, if you do end up doing this, Ayane is also left back turn, so that basically means that you can punish her with almost anything you want. So if you have a nice like fast launcher or anything, go for it, because if you hit an opponent while they're back turned and it's like guaranteed punishment, you'll end up hitting them on counter hit, which is really, really nice. Okay, alright, now just the second section you see right there is damage. When I jab my opponent, I do 10 damage. That's 100%. If I were to do, let's say, counter, right now I do 12 damage. You see right there it says 125%. I mean, if you're being a really literal kind of like math dude right now or anything, 125% will be 12.5. But the damage scale in Dead or Alive does round down, so yeah, you lose that 0.5%. And now for another example, let's say if we were set the counter to high counter, which is what you get when you strike a throw attempt, for instance. Right now you get 160% of that 10 damage, which now becomes 16 damage. So the damage you get off of stuff is really nice. But the thing to point out is that if you jab an opponent on high counter, look how much advantage you get there on the top right of the move details. You get plus 35. So with plus 25, you can connect, follow up whatever you want, where the opponent will only be able to get out of it with like a critical hold or break hold or something like that. But you get the idea. Let's say if I were to revert it back to normal hit. It's just neutral. So that means that Ayane's 10 frames remains 10 frames if you end up striking it on normal hit. So these damage modifiers are pretty nice. Another thing also, if you connect something on close hit, which are special moves which have a close hit property, which I'll end up going into a little later, you get 150% damage, so it's almost the same as like connecting something on high counter. As for high counters, I'll let you know that high counter is best for throws. Like 160% damage for 160% damage for a throw is really nice. Like right there, 62 damage becomes 98 damage. Just move on to the next section now, which is called critical damage. What this pertains to is just how much damage you can hit an opponent until they exceed the critical threshold, and you just have a what's called, I think, a critical finish, or or it's basically just your combo ends. For instance, let's say you stun an opponent with something like Ione's 6K. All right, it's at plus 12 stun, so I can connect my jab because that jabs are 10 frames, and yet remember, add 2 frames. So right now you see, well, when I just initiate the stun, you see the 26 there. That's the maximum critical damage on normal hit. On counter, it's 32. And on high counter, it's 39. So 26, 32, and 39. Those are the different thresholds. So right now it's at 0. So that means I initiated stun, but I haven't done any follow-up damage. When I do follow-up damage, you see it while their opponent is stunned, that critical damage goes up. So I do a PPP, and it goes up to 19. But once if I keep going beyond 26, you see I end up exceeding 26. The opponent just falls over automatically. However, it doesn't mean they fall over and then you can't do anything. And an actual interesting thing is that once you exceed it, you can actually end up getting some follow-up hits. Like right there, you see how I can connect like a PPK or whatever on Kasumi? This is just right here as an example. So you can still end up hitting the opponent before they fall over. But the point of this is just so you don't just mash and just keep doing that yada 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 until infinity. Alright, but yeah, you kind of get the idea for critical damage right now. The next part we're going to be looking at now is just the status. This literally just pertains to whether your opponent is, well, what status they're in. Whether standing, crouching, jumping. If you see right there when I jump, it says evade lows. Evade lows means that move is a low crush, or that it can it's a tech jump, so it avoids lows. It's invisible to lows. Another example of a status I'm going to show you is off of another jump, is commonly off of like jumping moves or whatever. If you were to do Ione's 9K, you see, you saw a bunch of statuses went through there. So it says jump, evade lows, but that thing right there, if you look quickly, you'll see a little status called squat in. During squat in status, that means that you can throw an opponent either standing or crouching. So basically, squat in status kind of sucks because you can be punished with a stand-in throw or a low throw, yeah, if the opponent was crouching. So you kind of get the idea on that. All right, for the next section, we have type. Right here, it just tells you what type of attack you use, like a high attack. It tells you, again, what kind of attack it is, a strike, and then it tells you if you have tracking. So with Ione's like jab, it's a high P, it's a strike, and it has no tracking. If I were to use her K, for instance, it's still a strike, but it has tracking. If I were to use a throw, it will tell you high. So throws are either highs or lows. You're generally not mids. So you have grab for throw to let you know what to throw, and throws track. So I'll let you know that if an opponent does like a side step or something, you can go for a grab. However, if they actually do a strike out of it, if you try and throw the strike, you will get high counter struck. So you have to throw during the sidestep, not the attack. So if your throw is too slow, you'll get blown up for it. So you have to be really careful. Same with like punishment or something like that. Like if you're, let's say I do something unsafe like 236K right there, I'm minus 13. So that means you can throw me with up to a 12 frame throw, but you need to be really on point with that. If you're too slow with your throw, then the opponent can end up just mashing you and attack you. So you need to be on point. That's why for most times I usually go for the safe 7 frame throw no matter what, unless I know that I was really anticipating something and get that throw punishment. But yeah, you know what I mean there. As for the type section, what I want you to use that section the most for, aside from knowing what height your attacks or what height your attack hits at, or what type of move is pay attention to what tracks and what like doesn't track. Because I'll just let you know, the sidestep move attack is really good in this game, and it beats out linear moves really, really well, to the point that it almost never loses to linear moves. So you have to consciously use your tracking moves. So use that bottom section just to know which moves to end up using. Alright, now for the next part, the advantage I already showed you. It gives you the idea. It lets you know how many frames either you get to act first or your opponent gets to act. If it's negative, the opponent gets to act first. If it's positive, you get to act first. As for unsafe punishment, for normal characters, it's generally considered, like, for instance, something like -8 is 7 frame throw punishable. 7 frame throws are guaranteed punishment, so -8 is usually where punishment starts. If you're facing a grappler, they can punish you. They can punish your -7 moves. So for grapplers like Bass, Tina, Lisa, I think Hayabusa also, those ones have 6 frame punish throws, which are unbreakable. So yeah, if you do a -7 move, they can like throw punish you for free, so you have to be careful about that. Alright, the next part, combo damage. This one's pretty self-explanatory. All it tells you is just simply... All it tells you is just your combo damage. The one on the right tells you the maximum damage you've done for the session, and the one on the left tells you how much damage you currently did in your combo. Before going to the next section, I forgot to actually tell you something with regards to damage. I told you the normal damage is 100%. Counter hit damage is 25%, 125%, and high counter it would be 160, and close hits 150. I didn't actually tell you the juggle damage. Like, if you hit the opponent normally, you're 100%, but if you hit an opponent during stun, your fallout will be 50%. So normally the, like, KK, the second hit will do 22, but because the first hit stuns, the second hit will connect on stun, only 50%. And if you were to hit an opponent during a juggle, it goes down even lower. Like you see right there, it started at 40%, then it progressively just goes down lower until right there, it's at 24%. So doing combos with a lot of hits will actually reduce that a lot. So sometimes just doing like a... So sometimes doing a combo with a few hits sometimes is a pretty good idea. Moving along, now we'll be looking at a new addition to the move details for Dead or Alive 6 is the break gauge. Right now it says the break gauge is 200. 200 pertains to when your break gauge is full. But if you were to do something to reduce it, like a break hold, you see right there, it says -100. So I used up 100 of my break gauge and brought it down to 100. And if I use one more, then my break gauge is down to 0. So that kind of gives you an idea. And then you see on the right, it says -100 again. But the main thing that's to look at is attacks. Like for instance, doing a jab on normal hit puts it up by +3. If you were to connect the jab, let's say on counter hit, it goes up by +4. And yeah, if you use something like a kick, there it's like +9 on normal hit, +7 on counter hit. So yeah, that basically just pertains to how much gain you get by hitting the opponents with stuff. And the next section forward, just called facing. This is just simply telling you whether you're facing backwards, so back turned, or forward. I don't think it does anything else. Yeah, it's just that, just backwards or forwards. Alright guys, I want you to press in R3 or whatever is the equivalent of the right stick on your controller. Push it in. Now scroll, that lock you saw on the top left is moved. Now scroll once to your right. Now push it in again. You should see that lock appear. Alright, now you're going to be looking at mostly kind of distance-based data right now. The first one I'm going to be looking at is on the top left. For this data, I want you to pay attention to the number there. You see it's distance. Right now, Ione is currently... Alright, Ione and Samir wobbling a lot, so right here. I can stop Ione. Alright, so let's say she's anywhere from 1.64 to about 1.72 meters because of Kasumi wobbling back and forth. So, for the sake of argument, I'm around 1.7 meters away from my opponent. So, as you can see right here, this number tells you how far you are from your opponent. So what you use this number, distance, your number with, use it in conjunction with that little status on the right called reach. Reach is a very useful one. That tells you how far your moves go. So if I were to do a 3P with Ione, it goes 2.05 meters. I am currently, let's say, 1.6 meters from my opponent, so I could reach with like a 6P right there, even though it's at 1.54, but because you're moving in and out. So the main idea though is, if you're, let's say you're hovering around different kind of ranges, like 2 meters or something, so mid-range or something like that. So I'm thinking, what moves can I like throw up from around like 2 meters? All right, 3P goes over 2 meters, right? It will reach 2.05. All right, it's a 15 frame move. I mean, because I could check right here, yeah, 15 frames. What's another move I could use? I could use 6K. It's another 15 frame move, and I could check some other stuff right here. Let's see. All right, it's 14, minus 14 on block, which is kind of unsafe. 3K is a little safer at minus 8, so you can use that. But both of them do have follow-ups, so you kind of get the idea. Those are different things you can end up trying to take a note of. Safety on block, potential delayable follow-ups. So yeah, so the distance and reach is pretty useful. So let's use that also to help you with just knowing like what pokes you can use during footsie range. The next one, height. It just pertains to how high you launch your opponent. Here I smacked Kasumi with Ayane's 8KKK, and it ends up launching her at a height of up to 2.14 meters. So at the highest launch point, that's how high Kasumi is. I'll let you know how launch heights work in DOA. There are 3 launch heights. There's normal hit, there's a counter hit or during stun, and then there's fatal stun or high counter launch. So there's a level 1 launch, it's just normal. Level 2 launch is either counter hit or during stun, and level 3 is either high counter strike, so if you hit someone during a throw or if they're airborne, or fatal stun. So yeah, those are the 3 launch heights. So basically when you do stun the opponent, you don't have to worry about what height it's going to be. It's always level 2 launch. Alright, now we're just going to be moving along a bit. The next one is called half hit, also known as tip range hit. So what this tells you is if a move has a half hit. If you connect a half hit at tip range, you get a different hit status. See right there, that's a half hit. This is a normal hit. Causes a trip stun. So you could check your advantages here and your damage. If I connect it normally, I get 100%. If I hit a half hit, 50% damage, plus it's an inferior hit status, only +7 advantage. In close, I get +8 advantage stun. I know that's only slightly better, but you kind of get the idea. All right, next one, close hit, is a. You can find this in pretty much previous DOAs also, but this is emphasized a bit more in DOA6. Close hit is, it simply tells you if a move has a close hit status and you get that 150% damage. Pay attention. The circle means that you have a close hit, but you see a little number next to there, 1.2 meters. The 1.2 meters pertains to your close range hit. Like this move can hit really far. You see it goes, well, it said 2.69 meters or 2.7 meters. See, depending on when, like, the timing that I used it. So the move goes 2.7, but the close hit range is only 1.2 meters. So I need to hit, right now I'm standing less than 1.2 meters, so I will get a close hit. Alright? Ground hit simply means if a move can hit an opponent on the ground. So anything that hits, you knock opponent down if you want a ground hit. This one will tell you what you can use. Alright, last section for here is called knockback. This simply tells you how far you knock back an opponent. So 236K with Ayane goes back 5 meters. So if I were to do other stuff, alright, 6BK knocks back 2 meters, so generally what you want to push your moves that knock back the opponent really far. The main reason why you want to keep this in mind is this is useful for knocking the opponent into the environment. So danger zones, walls, off of cliffs. So something that goes really far will easily knock the opponent into the environment. So those type of moves can be useful for knocking the opponent back. As a disclaimer, Ayane's 236K is not a poke. It's -13 on block. You can get throw punish for that. I mean, you can even get 12 frame punish if the opponent's completely on point, but they'll just either maybe 7 or 10 frame. So only use this if you're basically certain the move is going to hit. Right, hang in there, guys. We're almost done. Now I want you to push in the right stick again. Now scroll once to your right and lock again, just so the box doesn't move by accident. And now we're going to be looking at some more advanced data right here. So the first one you see in the top left is called follow-up interval. what this means is the frames from when you could start a delay to the longest frame until you can until the longest frame until you have a chance to do a delay. So an example, let's say if I were to use Ione's 3P. Alright, so the delay interval is from the 18th frame to the 31st frame. To show you, Ione's 3P is 15 frames impact and 15 frames to come out and 3 frames to back. So from the 18th frame onwards is when you can delay the follow-up. So you see right there, I just look at the top right. You see follow-up frame. That means I delayed it on the 23rd frame because the earliest I could do it is 18. And if I delayed as much as possible, yeah, my delaying kind of sucks. Sorry, 26. All right, let's see how much I can delay it. All right, there, 29. So as you're gonna see right there, it shows the frame when I delayed it. So the maximum I can do is 31. Ah, I got it. There we go, 31 frames. But yeah, so that's just simply the main idea for that is to kind of condition the opponent by just doing this. Because you see, this is normally an unsafe move on block. So when I think it's got a point now where the opponent's going to try and throw punish it, then let's just do some counter hit. You can delay it and then you can launch them. So the point of this is that moves that would normally be unsafe on block, delay them, and then if they try and throw punish prematurely, they'll get launched on counter hit, or they'll get hit on counter hit depending on what the move is, and you can do additional damage, which is pretty sweet. All right, the next section you're going to be looking at is called critical hold interval. What this pertains to is the earliest time that you can perform a critical hold, which is also known as a counter hold in stun. All right, so for instance, if Kasumi was to kick me or something like that, you see right there, the left number pertains to the earliest time that I can do a counter hold during stun, and the right one pertains to the last possible frame that I can end up doing a counter hold and stun. Like for instance, let's say she stuns me and I hold right away. Right there I did on the 28th frame, 25th frame, 13th frame. You see, so you kind of get the idea there. So it just simply shows it just simply shows you the frame interval when you can stun. So you can use that to keep in mind when an opponent can stun, and I mean when you can hold, when an opponent can hold like during your during your stun combos or whatever. So the main reason why you want to take note of that is because if you just keep doing everything at the same timing, then what will happen is opponents will be able to just hold you on reaction because of your timing. So that encourages you to try and delay your timings. And if your opponent doesn't hold like right away or something like that after you do something, then if they were to hold right away, it can help you with your timing with punishing premature panic holds on reaction with powerful throw. And as you know, on high counter throws get 160% damage, which can be devastating with certain 12-frame throws. Alright, the third part of the third page of the move details shows you the switch frame. It just simply tells you how many frames is required to go from standing to crouching. I'll just let you know right now, it takes 4 frames to do that. But you can actually speed up the process a bit if you perform something called a crouch dash into a block, also known as a fuzzy guard. You see, this can allow you to go into crouch faster than 4 frames. If you can get it down right, you can actually crouch in like 1 frame, which is optimal. So a fuzzy guard would be is you just do a crouch dash and block right away, which will allow you to be able to crouch. It allows you to like duck throw attempts and then and then block. So if you end up doing something that's like -5 or less on block or something, then it's optimal to try and do a fuzzy guard, and then you can go into the crouching status in under 4 frames, which is pretty useful. Alright, I think I showed you the follow-up frame. That just lets you know how much you delayed. I delayed it 27 frames there. Alright, now this one, sidestep evade. This one, it sounds fancier than it actually is, but it just lets you know if your sidestep has been successful. So it's good to know that, yeah, you can avoid sidestep moves, but under most circumstances, you're just going to be doing this anyway, so it's not too big a deal. And now the last part, once I just get Kasumi to stop kicking me, the last part now is simply the amount of frames that is required, that is being expended or being used to go from facing forward to back turn. And with Ayane, she has a move that puts her into back turn. Right there, if I do 8P with her, it takes, you see it takes 7 frames to turn around, but if I press the guard button, it takes 5 frames to turn around. That 5 frames to turn around to guard is actually pretty important. If you were, for instance, to do something that's like minus 14 on block in your back turn, that means it takes 5 frames to turn around, so you're actually really minus 19. Because it takes 19 frames to be able to return to a guard in position. So that means that the opponent can strike punish you with like a 17 frame move for free because of that extra frames it takes to turn around. But yeah, that's pretty much it for now. All right, I know this was a handful, but I really wanted you guys to get down the skill info move details box. So thanks for sticking around with me. All right, so if you have any more further questions about anything, feel free to contact me on my YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. Please leave a comment down below if you have any more further questions about anything. You can also contact Force of Nature on freestepdodge.com, and also be sure to look at my other guides, both my top tier tips guides, so the advanced guides, the rest of them, and looking at my character guide. So I will let you know. All this stuff that I go over will eventually come together and give you a better overview of what Dead or Alive 6 is about. But yeah, this is Force of Nature signing off. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time on Top Tier Tips.